The numbers are hard to comprehend. 7.8 along the San Andreas, we would have 13,000 buildings destroyed, 171,000 buildings damaged, 533,000 homes without power for 7 days, 1.7 million homes without water for 30 days, 50,000 displaced households, 82,000 emergency room visits, and the death count would be over 2,500. That would be a 7.8 along the San Andreas. Again, mood kill, I understand, but now we're going to start talking about how do we try and prepare for this? How do we get all of our agencies to talk together and work together and use, again, best case scenarios going forward? Personally, I've been at Cal OES for about 3 years, and I started my first week on the job. There was a little incident in a town called Oroville that I'm sure all of you are very familiar with. To date, the largest evacuation in United States history for a non-event, for something that didn't happen. But that was my first week on the job, jumped in with feet, right into the fire on that very first week, and we've been working ever since then. So, again, take notes in your program today. Let's make this as interactive as possible. Let's get question and answers going back and forth at any point in time. If you want to talk to any of the panelists with questions, we'll try and keep that going as well. So I'll call up the first group of panelists that are going to be here at this point in time, and as they make their way, I would like to recognize that as some of our VIPs that are with us this morning, especially from the Palmdale Water District. We would like to welcome Division 1 Director and Assistant Secretary Robert Alvarado. Division 3 Director and Treasurer Gloria Disney. Division 4 Director and Vice President Kathy McLaren. Division 5 Director and President Vincent Bino. So again, if we could have our first panelists start making their way to the stage now. We've got chairs and microphones that are ready to go. This first panel discussion will be called Government Agencies Planning for Water Emergencies. And as they make their way to the stage, I will attempt to introduce them. One of our first panelists is the Chief of Engineering for the 412th Civil Engineering Group at Edwards Air Force Base. Would you please welcome Jerry Boach. Our next panelist is the Emergency Services Coordinator for the City of Palmdale, and when I went to her before we started to try and pronounce her name, she just looked at me literally and said, "Good luck." You practice it, I'm going to try it. Nazi Chiliforishon. The Assistant Department Head for the Sanitation Districts of Los Angeles County's Wastewater Management Department. Please welcome Brian Louie. And Manager of Code Enforcement and Emergency Operations for the City of Lancaster, Andrew Miller. I'm going to let you guys take this one over, and Nazi, you want to start us off?
No, I was here.
Thanks a lot for that.
No problem.
Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so for government agencies, how do we prepare for a water emergency? First off, the thing that we always think of, especially in the government, myself and Nazi, is what is the public going to do? What's going to happen when there's no water? We all know that water is an essential part of everyday life. People start to freak out when you don't have water. We've got to think about these things. So we started meeting with all the water agencies and putting together and try to formulate a plan on how to do this, what we're going to do, and how we're going to handle these things when an emergency comes. The biggest thing the City of Lancaster does, we try to educate. We reach out to our employees first. We educate our employees. Hey, in the case of emergency, make sure you have water at home. Make sure you're ready for that. You have your families taken care of. That you have water available. Because you never know, that first 72 hours, there could be no water. It could be weeks. It could be 2 weeks before you get water. So have water at home available for yourself and your pets. Then we start reaching out to the public and trying to educate the public. Reaching out through town hall meetings like this, through seminars, through our websites on what to do and how to prepare and what you need to keep your family going. And so you don't have to freak out about those parts. Those are the biggest things that we find as a problem, is that when we speak to the public, they're good during the town hall meeting, during the seminar, But once they get home, they forget about this. They forget about putting the water in their garage. They forget about getting ready and having enough water for their pets, their family, when something does happen. So we reach out that way. We also reach out to our fellow entities. Being the city of Palmdale, we've grown a great relationship with them. We work together. Edwards Air Force Base and all the utility companies. Bonding, making sure we have that nice bond to where we can call upon each other to help each other out.
Well, I think Brian he kind of said something about 30 days no water for X amount of people. So that kind of blows the whole 72-hour preparedness out of the window. But as Brian, as Andrew said, I'm confusing Nathan. As Andrew said, there are a few things that cities or jurisdictions do. One is you have to worry about providing water for our staff and our residents, and the other part of it is utilities and how to actually provide services and continue services, whether it is fire, whether it is sanitation, which we're going to talk about later. It's not just providing water or having water available for the residents, which is why we try to urge the residents to have water. So just show of a hand, I want to see how many of you have about 3 days worth of water for all your family members. Okay, that's impressive. Who has considered their pets? That's hands. So maybe after this, the one thing that you can take, the smallest thing that you may take, is that go home and make sure that you do have that water at home. And maybe something at work, because we may not be home, we may be away. That's why I, again, reach out and educate to have a backpack in your car, have a backpack at home, have one under your desk. Because you're not always in the car, you're not always at home. So we start an education piece for the public. We do so by, as Andrew said, town hall meetings and websites, reaching out through social media, and then building these relationships. This is why we're here. We are here today to build those relationships. So the first time I'm meeting an agency rep is not in my EOC or their EOC. It is through these events that we meet, and when I see it, I give you a hug, and we kind of start, because we've worked together before. We know how to kind of work together, we know what our each other's pet peeves are, and we're going to have that friction of first time meeting in an EOC, because we all know emergency operation centers are not a very calm and friendly place the first few hours after a disaster. So let's reduce those frictions by kind of creating these relationships ahead. And I thank you guys all for being here.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Nazi and Andrew. I'm Brian. I work for the Sanitation District of Los Angeles County, and we own and operate a number of wastewater treatment plants throughout Orange County, including 2 here in Antelope Valley, Palmdale, our recreation plant, which is on 30th Street, and then also the Lancaster plant, which is off of Avenue D. We view ourselves as an essential public service, and so one of the big buzzwords in our industry is resiliency, and so we do a lot of planning around having resilient operations. And so we were talking to a colleague in medicine about the public power shutdowns, public safety power shutdowns, and we had a number of facilities that were on emergency generators. And so that's one of the things that we do is we're thinking about how to maintain the public service of sanitation for our communities by creating resilient systems. And so we design in place things like emergency power systems. But part of the most overlooked thing in terms of resiliency is actually our staffing, right? And we talked a lot about the importance of coordinating, the importance of communicating what's needed. And that's one of the areas that I feel we've got some great trained staff that actually live here in Antelope Valley. I've got some colleagues sitting back here who are in different trades, whether in engineering support, operations and operating the plant, or in maintenance and E&I. They all have this ethic of what we need to do to bring our utility back to service. Some things that the county that we do, we have a bevy of equipment that we can roll out at a moment's notice for the community. That includes vacuum tankers, vacuum trucks, emergency generators, provide power. And we've got skilled labor as well who can support the community in terms of bringing back services. So I think for us, it's really about creating a resilient operation so that when the services are needed again, we're able to provide that to the community, because our mission is to protect public health and the environment. And when people cannot use services, right, or the sanitation is not provided, it's a real issue for our communities. So resiliency through design, resiliency through the training of our staff, and to have local expertise in the community to communicate and coordinate. That's how we handle emergencies.
Thank you, Chair, Chief of the Engineering Division for Civil Engineer. Our roles are a little bit more unique. The fact that not only are we the city of the base, we're also the Public Works Department and the building managers and the utility providers. So we have to look at resilience across all those efforts. We have an airport that has to maintain operations of an emergency. We still have a national mission that requires the airport to operate. We also have the people that live and work on the base. So we have to look at all aspects of resilience. When we look at our, not just water, we're talking about water today, we also look at electricity, natural gas, and sanitation. So we do have on-base landfills, we have on-base wastewater treatment plants. All those things need to be operational to keep the base sanitary. So we have the responsibility of ensuring not only a secure water supply, we have two sources of water that we own. We own one source internal to the base on the groundwater, and we get state water project, but on the sanitation side, we still need to, it's great to have drinking water, you still got to get the waste away, so we have that responsibility as well. All at the same time, emergency, making sure the buildings are occupiable, that we can occupy the buildings, that we can get our workforce on the base, and then we can still meet the national mission of launching and recovering aircraft in the airfield. So we look at water from that side, so in an emergency, we have to assess our people, where our people are, and we institute our contingency plans to reduce water usage, and we also look at our system and what's operating the system, because large enough size of it can damage the system. So we have to divert water, route water through, to get into areas. And we have those plans in place, and we exercise those plans on paper, often annually and quarterly. We do emergency drills through all different scenarios. And part of that coordination is with the local community as well. And we recognize that in a major event, we have to look at, where our people are. We have people that come from as far as Pasadena to come to the installation. So we need to be exercise and look at how that plays a role in our ability to perform our mission.
Jerry brings up something. One of the things you need to look at is water in your lawn. Shut the water off. Be very mindful of what water you use when there isn't a disaster. And it doesn't have to be a big earthquake that we're talking about. It could be a large power outage. It could be a fire. But you've got to be mindful of the water usage that you're using. And again, that comes through education and educating yourself, educating your friends, educating your family. We in here should be reaching out to the rest of our folks, our friends, our coworkers, and letting them know what to do and how to do things and how to handle things in an emergency. Water is just one of the essentials that we won't have immediately in an emergency. You're not going to have electricity. You're not going to have cell service. You're not going to have sewer service. These are things we need to look for and try to plan for. And water being probably the most critical. Like I said, people freak out when they don't have water. But you have to plan for these things and plan how to use your water wisely and what you're using it for.
I want to take advantage of the fact that fire and water out here and discuss first responders, right? Water districts, water utilities are part of the first response. If your utilities are not providing, if they're not working, the fire department can't really do much in firefighting response. So that's the whole other part. I know we're going to discuss all of that later, but let's keep in mind that we practice in cities, Great Shakeout, we practice fire-related disasters, but we never practice what happens when water's out. In all of our drills and all of our exercises, we've never touched what happens when we have to provide, one, water for our residents for an extended period of time, and two, what happens when we have burst lines and water pressure is down. So that may be something that this group can work together and come up with a way of maybe a tabletop, maybe just starting that discussion of how to kind of address this. Because I see that as a big gap. Ridgecrest happened. One of the first things that people needed is water. If we don't practice these things, we really have to kind of rely on plans that have never been practiced and agreements that have been created with one provider providing water for an X number of cities. So I hope that after this, this is not just something we do once a year or we can put away. I hope that we can build on this and address all these gaps in our plans.
Yeah, I can give you some experience. How many were here during the Northridge earthquake in '94? So that was a major earthquake that actually damaged our treatment facility down in Santa Clarita, Valencia. And Nazi's totally right. You can't really plan for those things, and we had a lot of tabletop exercises and a lot of drills, but when you actually have to go through an event, what we found was so valuable in communications. We see radios, right? Because sometimes your line lines, we didn't have cell phones as much back then. Having a good line of communication with people, and I always think about even my own household. Like, do I have a plan in place for talking to my family? Like, where should we meet after a major disaster? And so those things have to be in our mind as utilities, especially. I could relate with Jerry, is that we are trying to ensure that we can bring services back, yet I have staff that live as far away as Rancho Cucamonga that travel to some of our facilities. So a lot of times we're thinking through where should people report, and what is our backup communication systems as well. We have systems, cellular backup system now for a facility that can run the facility. We also have a T1 line that goes to the facility. So again, these tabletop exercises are really good because they allow us to think of the worst case scenario, what's going to happen with our staff, how do we plan for this. And I would agree with Nazi too that with all of the excellence in this room, the ability to coordinate and communicate with the different agencies is truly, it's very vital for a major incident. That really helped us in the Northridge earthquake because it allowed us to get resources from the county that we needed as well.
So I would have one as a table topic. There is a national exercise called GridX. It focuses mostly on national electrical grid, but that would be a great opportunity for the city to partake in. We participate from an electrical standpoint, but we have tabletop major electrical outages and what impact it has to our system and allows us to exercise our plans. We have, through one of our quarterly exercises, we don't physically shut water off, but we have exercised our contingency plans to see how those would work and what impacts that would have to the mission. So I think it's important that tabletops are a good start. That's always good for tabletop. Mr. Jenkins, my boss, our VC, always like to say, a battle that never survives the first engagement with the enemy. And if we don't exercise that somehow before, you're not going to see the flaws in it. Because what looks good on paper doesn't always necessarily work. Or you'll find as you're exercising, and we've actually real world had it. We have a logo now that requires us to exercise a contingency plan. We found that valves and lines weren't where they were supposed to be. Unfortunately, our contingency plan is detailed enough to allow us to work around that, but that ability to see it firsthand really is beneficial.
And things like that, the public works and the city communicated with the water districts with regards to. But that again kind of only covers the utilities part, not providing water to the residents. For starters, we have to start by educating. So education is always the first piece of any kind of preparedness. But I think maybe this is me wishing for like a huge birthday gift, is doing a pod exercise. Because we do pods for medicine, why not do a pod exercise later after we go through education, after we go through training and finding gaps in the planning? What if we do do a pod exercise with providing water to our residents, and that would be our first step into kind of figuring out where the gaps are. That's where I would see us go in the future.
Anyone else want to jump on that? Questions?
Question for Jerry. Or following the Ridgeway earthquake, the bulk of thank you. Jerry, following the Ridgeway earthquake, most of the damage, billions of dollars damage, China Lake was shrouded in secrecy for obvious reasons. Can you speak at all about the responses for water supply at China Lake? If you have any information, any lessons learned?
I do not. I'm not aware of any issues with water supply. I can tell you from my dad, a water well driller, he had customers that lost storage tanks, but they were usually older tanks that needed, there was the final push to get them to go. As far as China Lake itself, I'm not aware of any issues that they have.
Thank you.
Every exercise is not going to be perfect. There's never going to be a perfect exercise. You run an exercise to find the gaps, to find the holes, to try to close those gaps. Even in an emergency, nothing's going to run exactly like it should be. So in a hot wash, you're briefing and debriefing about what went wrong. Where did we see something that we missed? How did we miss that? How do we fix that? How do we make it better the next time that we do an exercise? So when the real thing happens, at least we will be close to what we might need. Like I said, nothing's going to be perfect in a natural disaster. You're going to go through and things are going to happen that you never thought of happening. But if you can try to get up to a percentage of where you're close to having those things covered, you'll be way better off. But like Nazi said, our biggest thing is educating the public. The city of Lancaster, the city of Palmdale, will be handling what we need to handle. The fire, the sheriff, they'll be handling what they need to handle. The public needs to be able to handle themselves as far as what they have stored, as far as water supplies. They need to be educated and they need to have that type of supplies there so they can last a while before, so we can start getting utilities up and try to get them running and start getting them out.
I wanted to mention that we should also give ourselves a pat on the back for the things that we do right. I know it's really easy to kind of point fingers, not just at other people, but at ourselves and say, you did this wrong, or we should have done this better. But there are always things that we do really great, and it's really good for our staff's morale to kind of notice those things and mention them in after action reports. We had our hot wash following the shakeout, immediately after the shakeout, and table by table, section by section, they had to provide pros, and then they had to provide gaps that they thought they had. So I'm not just being negative and kind of, we failed. Everyone fails in these exercises. They're meant to fail you. They're meant to push capabilities, but we all do things that we deserve kind of a round of applause for. And then hopefully next week we're going to do kind of an after-action meeting with all the agencies involved, and that's when we figure out how those relationships work, what didn't work, names that were not the right names. So again, exercises are meant to be, you're meant to not be able to provide a response, because I wrote the exercise, I destroyed half of the city. It was gone. There were no shelters left, because the shelters were all gone. So they were meant to do that, and we just need to kind of, I tell my staff to have fun with it. This is the one time where it's like a video game. You can come back. There is no death really in an exercise. So let's make all the mistakes there. That's all I have.
I think I have to agree. So we exercise a lot of different things. I'm not going to speak on behalf of emergency management because there's more standards in exercise, but I think it always comes down to people. Sometimes plans assume 100% perfect response from people. And the key is to exercise that and see realistically how people respond, and then tailor the plan, either increase the training on the individual and on the people that are responsible, or adjust the plan for where the real world comes into play into those things. You can't, base is 30 miles wide, you can't have a person be at this side of the base and actually appear on that side of the base in 2 minutes. And we have to look for those types of things where we assume sometimes perfection or maybe the impossible, and then from the exercise realize that and make those changes.
I think the only thing I would add is the simplicity of communication is so key. Because I have an engineering background, I tend to like to have a detailed list of things that you need to do, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, I don't want to get to go 1 and 2, right? So I think we just have to realize that in an emergency, it's even harder to respond. So our plans need to be communicated in simple form. And that's what we've learned through our exercise. There's too many steps we need to simplify.
So, Ryan, I was hoping you might talk a little bit about maybe 2 things I think that would apply here. One is the criticality assessments that we did and how those might fold into how we prepare ourselves for other things. And then secondly, root cause analysis. When we do have failures, how, again, we expose these pinch points and how that we then fold that into our larger vision for what might happen under other circumstances.
Yeah, sure. Mike is a colleague of mine, so thank you for the question, Mike. Criticality analysis, we do go through a sort of a systematic understanding of our systems and what can go wrong with them. And what we usually find is that we find there's a single point of failure in pretty much every plant or system we have. And it goes also with the way we prepare too. There's always going to be a single point of failure. That's where we should spend, most of our time trying to figure out how to work around that issue or create procedures, standard operating procedures, maintenance procedures, operating procedures, repair procedures, ensuring that that critical piece of equipment is needed. If it takes over a year to manufacture something new, we should actually have spares on hand. So we will go through this exercise for all of our plants. And we've identified key critical pumps, critical electrical assets, communication assets that should be on the high part of all of our training. So that's one of the things we do. The other thing I've always impressed with our staff is we should never be afraid of failure, because when we fail, we have an ethic that it's about continuous improvement, right? Everybody's going to fail, but if we learn from these mistakes, we'll become better and more resilient. And that's for the public service. That is what our service is about. We want to ensure continuous service, essential service for our community. So we view this as highly. We should never be afraid of failure. I think sometimes you look at people want to hide failure, or they want to push it down. But I think those are the things that we learn most from. We become a better person, we become a better agency, organization. We embrace continuous improvement.
Okay, one more question.
Hi, I'm probably the one you were talking about when you said after the meeting you're all gung-ho and you get home and forget everything. So what advice do you have to people who, let's say, don't rotate? I mean, I've got a backpack and I've got all that. It's probably been there since the early 1800s. So what do you actually suggest for those of us who just can't quite keep it up to date? Other than coming to my house and fixing it every 6 months.
I've trained my staff, or I've suggested to my staffers to do so during a specific date, like a grade shakeout. It's a set date, our agencies practice it, so why not use that date to go over your personal and your professional kits. Some people use, birthdays, they go through it, or September is preparedness month. You can utilize that month, it's always on the calendar, agencies do various things. But having a set day to do it every year helps out. If you're like me, I have a few kids and all over the place, and they have a few things that I can reach out and I steal from every now and again when I need it, like cash, clothes, socks, and things like that. So if I don't go through my kids, if I don't update them on a set date, then when I actually need it, it's going to miss socks, it's going to miss cash, and all those things. So have your list, have your checklist in your backpack. You grab it every year. If it has an expiration date, replace it. But again, pick that one day every time to do so. It will kind of be a reminder to you, oh, it's September 1st, preparedness month, then you go through it.
And I know for us, because a big part of what we do is preparedness messaging. We do a huge event in Sacramento every year, and we're always working with the local media, trying to get them to help us amplify that message. And one of the little keys that we found recently is, and it's a great teaser for the TV stations and radio stations, what's the simple $3 kitchen tool that could save your family's life? Can opener, manual can opener. It's a great tease, but we use that all the time. The TV stations jump on that, and we bring one with us, a $3 can opener in your go bag, and that's a good message point. Round of applause for our panelists on this. First question is, let's go to the line. If you will, again, introduce yourself and kind of what your agency is, your general location, and just kind of give us a synopsis of what you do.
Sure. This is, my name is Wayne Chisholm. I'm the general manager of the Antelope Valley Concentrated Water Agency. We're a wholesale water supplier. Our primary objective is to import water from the State Water Project and deliver it to the Antelope Valley. We serve close to 2,500 miles of area, both in Kern and Los Angeles County, and our real mission is to just be able to get that water here. We have water that we bank for emergencies and droughts to make that water available should we need it during those periods. So that's basically what our agency is about. And we're generally all over the Antelope Valley for the most part.
Good morning. Dennis Nymer with Palmdale Water District. We are a state water contractor, but also a retail water district. We serve central and eastern Palmdale and unincorporated areas nearby up to the forest boundary. We serve roughly 115,000 people, and we have 2 surface storage reservoirs and about 50 million gallons worth of potable storage that we operate on a daily basis.
Good morning. My name is Dan Lafferty. I'm the Deputy Director for Public Works of the county. And here today in my role overseeing Waterworks District 40. Waterworks District 40 serves both Lancaster portions of Palmdale as well as unincorporated county areas. We've got about 200,000 residents that we supply, and we get some of our water from AVIC, but we also have a number of wells that we are able to produce groundwater in terms of providing service to those customers.
Good morning, my name is Chad Rada with Port Sill Water District. We will start off with, we're mostly West Lancaster, some Palmdale, some unincorporated areas. We're much smaller, we serve about 20,000 people. We get some of our water from Antelope Valley, Kern, and we also have the groundwater.
My name is James Chase from the Rock Creek Irrigation District, located in the southeast off of 138. The district is about 15 square miles. I have 1,100 domestic connections, 200 irrigating connections. We have 4 groundwater wells. We have intertie with Palmdale Water.
All right, hang on to the mic, James. We'll start with you and come back down this way and ask each of you, how are your agencies prepared for emergencies, to deal with emergencies when they come up?
We do a yearly emergency plan where we take the staff and run through a mock situation. And until the actual emergency really happens, we don't know what exactly is going to happen. But knowing where the valves are, who's the first person on site, what their job would be, and then coordinate with them, notify the public if we have main breaks, so we isolate those, and then go from there. The system is designed as a grid system, so we can't isolate any breaks on particular roads, and we keep emergency supplies to fix those repairs as quick as possible.
Court told me a few different things. One of the last few years is really when we kind of stopped our game a little bit. We've done a lot more with our symptoms type training. We started getting ready so that we're able to participate with, if it was large enough that we could get into federal things. We also have the Public Water Agency group that is a group of water districts throughout Antelope Valley, San Gabriel. It's about 30 agencies roughly that come together so that we have an inter-agreement with all of us so that we're able to support one another during times of emergency. We also, because of, as a small agency, we're not able to hire staff that can do a lot of different things. For that reason, we found it much more advantageous for us to group in with larger agencies and have professionals like what you're going to hear from shortly here, like Mr. Holmes here, that helps us with our tabletops, helps us with communication, different things of that nature that we've been able to put together in the last handful of years to really start upping our preparatory and making sure that the tabletops in the past aren't nearly as, or the exercises that we've been able to do aren't nearly as detailed as what we've been able to do the last few years, where we're actually literally shutting down and moving water purposely different ways. So that's where we've been preparing, is trying to utilize the big guys, so to say, up here and utilize their resources.
Well, I think it's fair to say, and I think all of the retail agencies would agree that we pretty much deal with emergencies on a daily basis. Unfortunately, when you want to operate a water system, you're subject to breakages, you're subject to water outages, and as a result, you're responding nearly daily to leaks and other emergencies within the system. So those small emergencies really help prepare our staff and management for the larger emergencies. They're very used to rolling out of bed at 2 in the morning to respond to a leak at some location. You know, somebody's hit a fire hydrant or any one of a number of different things. In addition to that, we spent a lot of time developing our emergency management protocols, identifying where we believe there are sort of weaknesses within the system. And then over time, addressing those and trying to ensure that we're building resiliency into those systems. One of the other elements is, you know, as Waterworks District 40 is part of Public Works in the larger county family, we do monthly exercises of our emergency responses, which include having Waterworks participate in those exercises. I think one of the things that is a benefit of having Waterworks District 40 here in the Valley is that there is direct access to the resources that the larger Public Works organization has, and by extension the county has. You know, we've got here in the Antelope Valley, in addition to our staff, which almost 99% of the folks are local. We've also got access, if need be, to our road department assets, and by extension, we can pull stuff from across the hill and bring them into the valley if we see that there's a need for additional resources. I think too that because we have a number of Waterworks districts, the Woolsey Fire, for example, was a huge effort on the part of our Waterworks District 29 staff. As part of that response, we actually had folks from District 40 going down and helping to make sure that we could keep those first responders in water as they dealt with that wildland fire. So there's a lot of ongoing, almost, I would say, daily training that happens as we respond to the emergencies that occur. It's just sort of a natural course of business for us.
Palmdale Water District, a lot of the things that we're doing are very similar. We're also dusting off all of our emergency plans and refreshing them, working with Mr. Holmes and the Public Water Agency group. We're also tied into CalWARN, or California Water Agency Response Network, on a statewide basis. And then locally, we have an agreement with ABEC and Little Rock to mutually help each other in emergencies. And that's come in play just in the last few years with a big leak that we were able to assist with on a major highway. Landslides a few years ago that closed off the aqueduct. We were able to feed water to Waterworks and AVEC through an interconnection that we have. So we have various things set up that gives us options. In 2001, we got a wake-up call when it comes to power outages, and the district invested in a number of natural gas generation, so we could produce about 60% of our normal demand without Edison. So that was a good practice. You know, we're working to deal better with the outages that we're looking at currently. And that's kind of a summary.
Yes, with regards to the Yellow Valley East Water Agency, the board of directors indicated to their staff that they wanted the agency to have a more robust emergency preparedness plan. And they actually included as a strategic plan item for the staff to develop and improve on. To that end, the agency just recently purchased 4 additional emergency generators and did a study of the critical locations within the AVEC distribution system where those facilities could be located in order to be able to provide water to the region. And so we've accomplished that. In addition, realizing the fact that we need to have a vehicle that can actually move these around and move where they need to be moved, where you're probably not going to get that kind of service in an emergency. We just recently agreed to purchase a tow vehicle that can move these very significantly sized generators around. Because of the power is one of the critical aspects of being able to maintain service. The agency is also working on a new emergency center, EOC center for AVEC. We're going to be building some resiliency in there to be able to function effectively in an emergency. You know, one of the benefits, I guess, of being in this line of work for so many years, I've had an opportunity to experience some of these emergencies where you actually are at a place where you can't serve water. At one agency that I worked at in the late 90s, there was a fire that took power out, and I recently was just fairly new with this agency, and it was coincidentally I went out. One of the first things I did when I got there was look at all the facilities, the water wells, and emergency generators, and I looked at some of these generators and I said, that looks like a World War II version of something. I said, yeah. I says, well, you guys exercise? No, we never started. If we started, it's going to break. Well, what's going to happen when you have an emergency? He says, well, we're going to pull our finger across the phone works. So 2 weeks later, there was a huge fire, and the power went off, and went on for close to 12 hours. And we were watching, I remember it very distinctly because it was about 6 o'clock in the morning and people were beginning to wake up, and we had power out through the whole evening. And I was watching the reservoir levels go down and down and down. And I was drafting the public, I was drafting it had been on the side of my truck in the middle of where the reservoir was. I was drafting public notification that we were going to have boiled water, we were going to have water, we were not going to be able to provide fire service. Because, needless to say, when we started these generators, they all broke. So we had them because they were old and not decrepit. So it's a very personal thing to realize that these are really, really important things that you do, because when you need them and you have to make that call, it's pretty important. So for our agency, we've done several tabletop exercises. We're improving our facilities, our abilities to respond to emergencies, and we'll work through that process.
All right, speaking of Dwayne, just like you would have been working our way back down this one, what are some of the greatest perceived threats, potential things that could come up if there were a large earthquake on the San Andreas Fault?
Well, I think the biggest issue, certainly, we're a wholesale water agency, and as such, we provide water to some of the retail agencies. Most of the retail agencies, depending on the time of the year, can provide most of their own water through their groundwater systems. So we would be a backup supply. The big issue in an earthquake, whether it's here or in Northern California, is that interruption of that water supply. And the fact is, if there was a large earthquake in the Delta, you may not get water project for 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, it would take that long to reestablish that kind of water supply. Equally so, if there was a local earthquake here in the Antelope Valley where the actual aqueduct was severed or damaged considerably, it could be a couple of years before actual flow is resumed under normal circumstances. So for those reasons, part of how our agency is trying to make sure that we can still provide a service that would be certainly regulated and conserved would be to make as much water as we can within our existing service area. Use an alternative source of recovery through a water well system and a distribution system and our interconnection with Palmdale and Little Rock to be able to serve that water for a year or two, even in the worst of conditions, in case there was a severe outage of the aqueduct.
In our case, the San Andreas cuts through about 1/3 of our service area. I think you're all familiar with Palmdale Lake. San Andreas is the North Shore. So that's something that we've looked at and dealt with for quite a while. One of the bigger provisions that we have is something happening to Palmdale Dam that because of the fault flowing right underneath it, there's provisions in place where we would hold that water in the same general area and still be able to pull it out and use it for our customers. And at the same time, keep it from running down into Palmdale itself, other than maybe through a 12-inch pipe. So it's very controlled. We've also looked at we have storage to the south of the fault that we've put in some earthquake valves in strategic locations to ensure that when the pipes break, we hold the water at a higher elevation so we can still have it available when we can rebuild the system. We've done a study of all of our pipes that cross that whole fault zone. It's not just the San Andreas. I think there's nearly half a dozen splinter faults there. And we have a much higher inventory than, like, I hate to call them normal, but like a normal water district would for our size of a distribution system, because we don't know what we'll be able to pull in an emergency. So those are some of the steps that we've taken to try and prepare ourselves for that.
So yeah, a lot of the way that the Waterworks District 40 would respond to an earthquake really kind of depends on what happens as a result of the earthquake. Clearly, if there's a severing of the aqueduct, that means that we're going to be on groundwater for an extended period of time. If that earthquake, the damage that is, if it's a severing of the aqueduct coupled with a loss of some of our wells, that puts a lot of pressure on us to try to find alternative means. I think one of the things that we have done is make sure that we have interconnections with our sister agencies, so that if our facilities are down to the point where we're having a hard time keeping up with demand, were us can't provide us some water to help supplement that, those agreements and that infrastructure is all in place already, so that when that day comes, if it should, we've got that kind of redundancy. I think too that the fact that the way that the system is laid out, in terms of it being more of a grid system, there's the normal operations in the way that water flows through the system. But if you've got breaks in particular pipelines, you have the opportunity and the ability to kind of isolate that and move that water through so that you can bypass those damaged areas and still provide service to your customers. So some of it is a redundancy that's built into it just by the very nature of the way that the system itself is constructed and operated. I spoke a little bit about the fact that there's access by being part of Public Works. The Water District 40 has access to emergency equipment and personnel outside of the district itself. I hate to say that the Southern California Edison power shutoffs have been a good thing, but one of the things that they've done is they've highlighted for us that need to make sure we've got the right number of generators for us to be able to withstand an extended power outage. And so, one of the things that we've done recently is actually purchased and increased the number of generators that we have, so that when the power does go out, whether it's an earthquake or anything else, that we've got the ability to continue to provide the power necessary to keep the system running. So I think that with all of those things added in, there's sort of a robust resiliency to the system. And clearly, part of what would happen following any disaster like this is a lot of public outreach to make sure that folks understand that they have a role to play here as well. That when the system is in such a critical situation, making sure that they're doing their part in not irrigating, not having the sprinklers go off, making sure that they're doing even more in terms of water conservation, so that the supplies that we do have locally can be extended as much as possible. So I think that would be an important message that we get out, that it's not just the agencies and the professionals that are managing the systems that have a role to play. Each and every single customer likewise has a role to play in making sure that there's water for everybody.
I think personally I would say that ditto to almost everything that's going down here. Our roles are so similar as we go down, and storage is something that's a big deal on us. Making sure we have the supplies on hand. That's one of the biggest things that we're trying to do, is how many leaks can you concurrently do at the same time. Not only that, we know the supplies are going to be so limited. And so we've brought additional generation on site for standby, several. We've also gone through and looked at where is the most critical places of putting this. I'm going to agree with what Dan was just saying with regards to the power outages. It's been a huge eye-opener to us in saying, okay, typically we were preparing for the 1 to 2 day scenarios. Now 7 is a whole different situation. You can't just look at your storage that's on hand. You just can't look at your reservoirs. You can't just because of water quality, because of other issues there. So something that we've been really trying to do is, how are we going to move that water? How are we going to make sure we're maintaining residuals? There's a few other things that we've looked at along with all the things that have been said, but basically it's a resounding ditto, which makes me kind of feel happy and good, because apparently I'm hoping we're doing something right.
So we're able to get earthquake valves that are on the tanks that isolate up to 3 million gallons, while we can assess the damage and see where we need to start. Also, we use diesel motors to pump the water in the event of electricity loss. So we're able to still move water. Also, we practiced here recently in the last year is actually moving the water in different directions by using certain wells to serve parts of the district that are normally supplied by the wells. We recently had a break where we, luckily we're practicing that, and we were able to supply half the district with water for that period of time. Also, emergency notification plans, we have those in place, so depending on where the breaks are, we can just call certain customers, or we can send out a mass notification to the entire district to let them know what we need to do in order to maintain the water supply.
All right, so we've talked about what you as districts and agencies would do. Let's take it to the streets. How should your customers prepare for water interruptions?
They should prepare by keeping a water supply, first aid kits. At the district, we keep as much water as we can in storage, cycling through it as much as we can to keep fresh water in there. I mean by bottled water. But that would be the same thing I tell the customers, is you gotta be prepared to take care of your family. And like we learned earlier, not a lot of people prepare for the dogs. Make sure we're prepared for those too. And make sure people know that in an emergency situation that's watering your lawns. Unnecessary watering is not the best way to conserve the water.
We actually had a good opportunity to practice this a short while back. We had a very small mudslide into the aqueduct, and supplies were limited, and we were able to go out and we started reaching out to certain communities. One of the things that we were amazed the most about was just simply getting out or some sort of flyer or something of that nature, how fast the community responded. And that was something that was an eye-opener to us as in one of our far western corner areas. It was just overnight, you could see the demand just drop off completely. And so what we found is by having these little incidences, we're able to get ready for the bigger ones. And one of the biggest things that we have is how are we going to get communication out to you? Is it website? Is it Facebook? Or any of the social media engines? And so we've been really doing a lot with regards to reaching out and trying to make sure we have valid email addresses, valid phone numbers, that we can reverse phone call systems that we have to start getting out. So one of the big things that we're pushing is make sure you're current with us so that we can do this. Again, obviously you need to keep your 72-hour kits, you need to do all those things. But if we can't communicate with you, we can't tell you where you can go get water. If we have earthquake valves and we have different seismic stuff to shut down the whole supplies, we're going to have water somewhere. But if we can't tell you where to go get it, it's not really all that beneficial. So one of the big pushes that we're trying to do lately is how do we utilize these tools that are kind of newer, and I use newer kind of loosely there, to make sure that we're communicating both directions.
Yeah, I would agree that making sure that folks understand, that messaging has been out there for quite some time about making sure that you've got your own emergency supplies. 72 hours has sort of been the norm in terms of that messaging, but extending that to as long as a week or perhaps two when it comes to water. I think making sure that folks are not just hearing that, but actually following through with that. I would agree that, Chad, that when an emergency occurs, part of that emergency preparedness is making sure that you do have the ability to receive the communications that we're trying to put out. Whether that's a portable radio with extra batteries, whether that's one of those hand cranked radios that you can receive that messaging, whether it's making sure that the information that your water retailer has on file is current, so that when we do the reverse 911 calls and send out a telephone message to each of the customers that we've got the right phone number, we've got the right email address. I know sometimes there's a little hesitancy to spread your information too far out there, but when it comes to your water provider, it's important that we're able to reach out to you to let you know. And I'll go back to District 29 for a second in Malibu. Unlike in District 40, there's only one pipeline that serves that entire region. It comes up PCH. And we've had instances where that line is separate. And so once you're out of storage, you're out of water. And very much we had to create emergency water distribution centers and let people know you can go pick up emergency bottled water while we're doing repair work. And so making sure that customers understand that they have to be in a position to be able to receive that information, that they've got that ahead of time and not scrambling after the fact to try to find a way to receive the information they need so that they can get the water that they need.
My turn to say ditto. All that's been talked about is very important to all of us. And I think we've already heard here this morning that some people don't listen until after it happens and then
AMEX is a wholesale water agency, so our customers, per se, are retail water agencies. So it's real important that we develop and improve on our communications between the retail water agencies and wholesale water agency, exactly how much water they need, where they need it, and where we might be able to provide it. As I've indicated to you previously, we have a large reservoir of water that's in the ground that, with our generator purchase, can be able to be distributed to various customers, but we want to be expeditious in being able to do that strategically so that the customers that need the water for a particular reason, we're going to have to count on their assessment of their own systems to be able to know whether to put, we want to put fresh water in our own system or it's just an exacerbate a problem that we have. So one of the areas where I think we could improve a little bit is the communication during the emergency between the various retail agencies and the wholesale water agency.
All right, I've called the questions enough for these guys. I'm going to throw it out to you guys in the audience. Any questions for this panel? We've got a few minutes left before we move on.
We're just really thorough, that's all.
You guys have done a pretty good job of touching on this already, but how are, and anyone can jump on this, how are you prepared to assist each other during an emergency?
I'm going to jump in first. One of the things that we, with the emergency agreements that have been signed between Lehigh County and also Palmdale Water and several other agencies, I think that's one of the first and foremost. The second is Palmdale Water and Port Sill have radio communication and go back and forth. One of the big things that you always think of, I'm going to pull out my cell phone, we're going to be able to just, no, that's not going to work. So one of our own repeaters, our own stuff that we're able to make sure communication is going on. Recently, we shared all of our frequencies over with the city of Lancaster, which I think is dispersing that information out. So I think communication is going to be one of the biggest things that we might have spare backups, we might have spare this or that, but if we don't know someone needs it, it's going to sit there in our shop. And we might have spare fuel, different things. We all like a decent generation when you're talking about, but without the fuel, it's not going to work anyway. So being able to move some of these things along is going to be probably the most key to all of us. Lake County has tankers, I'm assuming that they can move a lot more fuel than what we could. That's going to be very paramount to us in saying, okay, we're able to lose water to this section or to this zone, but we need more fuel in doing it. So communication is something that I know has been being really pushed lately among all of us. Sat phones with the two cities and things of that nature. We don't have sat phones. We just have radios because we're hoping we can get to one of them and get it out to the Supermans that are coming to help us, so to say.
True mutual aid. How about a round of applause for our panelists?
On a panel with Selectman Lackey and Supervisor Barker, this is great. I don't have a technical background like you have, and I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I don't think I have any, really words of wisdom, but I'm glad to see that we're collaborating on this. I think, for our constituents and your customers, they want clean, reliable, and reasonably priced water, and beyond that, they don't think about it, right? As long as they turn on the spigot, they're good to go. But I salute you for doing this because it's so incredibly important. What's going on right now with the power outages is absolutely outrageous, and that is a failure on part of the state and the utilities, and it's not acceptable. And so I'm really thrilled that we're here together, collaborating to make sure that in a time of crisis, that to the best of your ability, you're able to meet the needs of my constituents and your customers. So with that, I know this is the very first time you're doing this. Hope you will continue doing it. And anything we can do at the state level not to hurt you, let me know. Anyway, have a great conference.
We're going to bring you back up at the end to answer some questions that I just wanted you.
Tom gets the tough one.
Speaking of, would you welcome now to the stage Assemblyman Tom Lackey from the 36th.
is encouraging to see that this level of collaboration is going on as we talk about the most precious commodity in our society, and that being water. I think at least I hope everybody's paying attention to how this energy situation is being managed, because it's really not been thought out properly, and we have a lot of people that are really being disadvantaged. And communication is so powerful, and I hope we're all paying attention to this whole energy thing, because I think there's a lot in common on the things that need to be learned and the things that need to be thought through, because as the senator indicated, just like power, we take it for granted. And we don't realize that it's a lot more than providing energy for our televisions or computers. Especially we have people in more rural settings, they rely on power for their water. And we have all sorts of other water challenges that I hope that you guys will consider, especially when we have parts of this area that I represent and the senator represent that require water to be delivered to their home. And because the state has concerns on transportation, they have basically negated the ability for many parts of our communities to even get water. And that's about ready to happen in just a few months. So these are issues that I think they think a little bit outside of we all think of water flow, and that is very critical that we're mindful of, and the discussion that just took place are all very critical issues. But there are other issues too that need to be also in the discussion arena, and I hope that we're all mindful of those circumstances, because those people without water cannot survive, and that's just reality. Energy we can survive, but we'll have problems. But some of those people too, even on energy, we had an experience where a person who requires oxygen, and they lost their power for multiple days, extended periods of time, and to points where their lives were being jeopardized, and the energy company's answer was call 911. I hope we never take that position in this arena, and that we show some true leadership, and that we consider the totality of our population and not just the mainstream. But thank you all for being here. This is truly an honor to actually see and to build confidence in the delivery model of our water, because truly we can't survive without it. So thank you all.
All right, and before we bring Senator DeSantis back on for some questions, I will now welcome to the stage the Los Angeles County 5th District Supervisor, Catherine Barker.
Senator Will Gasser, my teleprompter was, I don't need one. I was telling Dennis, I got here a little early, so I got to hear the panels, and what impresses me is that there's coordination. For you all, you have constant discussions regarding what goes on. I'm so proud to have Dan as part of the county family. He's doing amazing things. And I joke with people that it's true, water and whiskey. I take water, or some people might take whiskey, but it's a reminder about just how important and how much we depend upon the water resources we have. And I lived through the adjudication up here, so I know firsthand how important it is to this region. And one of the things about the fires, and Senator Wilkin and Senator Lackey touched on it, and that it has to do with the electric and what's going on as it relates to power. Lessons learned for me, when they turned off the power, our LA County Fire depended upon the water that they pick up at Agua Dulce Airport, and guess what? The pumps were out, so they couldn't pump the water. We talked to Edison, they had no idea. They had no idea the impacts, and so one of the things we're working on, I'm going to be collaborating with our state representatives, is getting large generators and putting them in areas that we know are key, especially in rural areas. For example, the airport, the community centers that depend upon resources that relates to the community and getting them out there. To the point that was made about signing up for individuals that have issues and need respirators or other quality of life depends upon the electricity. We're going to be doing an aggressive outreach with Southern California Edison and our first responders to identify who those individuals are, and we're going to share those with our waterworks district, with all the water agencies, so that you all are aware as well. There's no coordinated effort right now. We had no idea. Lessons learned from this fire, but these are lessons that are tests for all of us. The Ridgecrest earthquake was, I think, a test for all of us. I remember Northridge when 14 was shut down, and there was no way to get in and out of here. As a result of that, we've got new resources up here, not to get morbid, but the coroner is now located up here because we needed to have the ability to isolate and only depend upon the region up here. And I want to brag about Waterworks 40. I know in 2015 when you had the issue with the aquifer, I think it was a mudslide. Waterworks District 40 stepped up to the plate with 40 wells. I think we can provide over 23 million gallons of water. It was about working together as a region, ABEC. I know more about ABEC than I ever thought I would, but I mean, amazing partnership that we have. Communication is the key. So with that, better to be thoughtful than open my mouth. That's about all I know about water. But I do look forward to you all, and again, Dan, I know you've had challenges. We've had to take over Sativa Water down in Compton, and he was point what is it? Ground Zero. And you did a remarkable job to a very vulnerable population that didn't realize that they had rights as it relates to clean water. So with that, are you all going to come up and we're going to sit? Not to take over the show, but thank you.
Come on.
This is not so much a question as the fact that one of the things that Palmdale Water District and why we really thought of doing this and talking to people is you see the gaps of the water and it's never ever talked about, but it's so important that it is coordinated into everything. And so after the Ridgecrest and I saw how the one area had no water and everything, I thought, here we are, we're kind of away from everything. We just really need to regionally coordinate so we can take care of everything. And so I'm so happy that you guys came and all the panels and everything to come, because this is the first of many. We're going to take every little opportunity of learning from these other things going on. But just the fact that the power went out and ore going out, and we already know we're ready because we got generators that we can move in. It's just so, it's kind of makes us feel good that we are doing some of these things, but that's why we want to really reach out to all of our leaders and our cities, and this is about us all together, working together. And I'm just really happy to see this happen, and I heard about the Grid X and the different things. I'm going to be asking my staff of how we can be more involved, and we also want to be here to help you guys out, our leaders too. Thank you.
Thank you, well said.
So I just add on that, and I agree with you, Kathy, I think it's incredibly important. So 2 years ago, Senator Milaki and I carried a bill, SB 634, which Supervisor Barber also lobbied on, which consolidated water agencies down in the Santa Clarita Valley. And through that, we had better management of the watershed. Through economies of scales, the first year alone, they were able to share $5 million in expenses. And then we had a little fund we put in a ratepayer advocate to protect small business in case the new thank you.
Mutual aid.
Tries to take advantage of, having monopoly. So I think collaboration, coordination is very, very important.
And if I could just say, okay. The two really big issues that we get calls from our district offices are clearly supply and cleanliness. Those are the really big dominating issues that the average person walking down the street. We live in a desert, right? And so supply is something, we had the adjudication battle that took years and years and years, and so we have some very complex issues to still work through. It isn't like they're solved, but we have to continually work collaboratively together and not finger point as what's happening in different other utilities and other public agencies. Let's please find the common area and let's work together instead of pointing that one's better than the other, because really that's the temptation in society that seems to be the prevailing attitude. And I'm thankful to see that we're actually working collaboratively together on these two issues. And cleanliness of water is the other one, and that's a national issue. And so what's really clean water and what isn't really clean water is very debatable. And those are issues that we need to try to be very, very clear that we're serving our public in a responsible manner on both the supply and cleanliness.
So I want to follow up on that. One thing that doesn't affect up here, but does affect down below, and I think up here, lessons learned as it relates to water on that was put in Plain LA County as it relates to recharging the aquifer. And you all are already doing it. Adjudication was painful. Painful on a lot of levels, but in the end, I believe we have a good plan moving forward, and that's where I think the coordination comes in. But you know, I tell people, stop using the word drought. We should be conservative no matter what. And I think that growing up, it was, if there's a drought, you conserve, and then when you get rain, you just go back to your old ways. And I know in LA County, we're really trying to develop plans that help residents understand that it's a way of life, and we should be more cognizant of the resources into your so that's going to be a challenge that we're going to have moving forward, and I know Anne's very much aware of it as it relates to the regs that we're going to have to come into compliance with stormwater, which doesn't affect this region, but it's only a matter of time before it creeps up there.
I had a quick question with regards to the emergency generation that we talked about. The fire outage, you said that it's not acceptable for the fire outages. However, Kennett is here. Is there any talks up in Sacramento with regards to matching funds or any sort of monies that might be being appropriated in the future here to pay back some of these different things or possibly help us out with some of this?
Well, this is working, right? If we're not, we should be. I mean, one of my biggest frustrations, so I'm somebody who believes that we do have climate change going on and we do need to address it. So we have this whole cap and trade program, which is generating about $2.2 billion a year on taxes that people are paying. But we're not using that money effectively to address climate change. 25% is going to the bullet train, which is not going to reduce carbon emissions. This year, Governor Newsom took $100 million for water districts and poor areas. That's a worthy goal. I don't think it should be coming out of cap and trade. And if you look at the stats from 2015, our cap and trade program said 1.5 million metric tons of carbon. Wildfires generated almost 24 million metric tons. So we're not spending money smartly. I think you're going to see some real changes in this direction, just for the very fact that you laid out.
This, I said, you see us do this, and they're doing this. They're certainly doing it.
But when you get 25,
right,
and you click on one and then go to a link that will show you what regions are affected, it seems a lot more efficient and easier on my
Yeah, my fear is what's going to happen is we're going to flood people with information. They're going to become desensitized. And that's really the danger. That's the way bureaucracies think. You just pass a rule and everything's fixed. It's not that simple. And so that's the frustration. Frustration is the failure to actually get meaningful collaboration with people that really care, the people that really are motivated by the right things. And it's the more complex the bureaucracy becomes, the harder that is to accomplish, it seems.
Before, preparing interconnection and interdependence on the infrastructure. For instance, the power outages. I'm in a rural section, so I had my power shut off 3 times in the last week. When the power went off, there was those 25 texts you're getting, I got none. So maybe a month ago, I got in rapid succession, I would get a text message, an email, and a phone call. Great. When they shut the power off, I got nothing. My particular home, we have 2 people that use CPAPs. It went off at 3:45 in the morning. We had no cell, we had no power, and we had no water because we're on a well. So we were completely shut off with no advance notice. So so having a website is a great idea, but we would have no access to it when we were under one of these outages. So we need to think about a way to communicate not only during an emergency, but beforehand, these public service announcements that tell people where to go, perhaps newsletters that come out, quarterly that say, in an emergency, do this, X, Y, Z, that type of thing.
So LA County actually puts together for different regions, Ready, Set, Go, and we're updating them, and they are going to be out there. And again, I think this is a wake-up call, but we need to be prepared. And so one of the things I'm talking about with my colleague, Sheila Kuehl, who had the Woolsey fire, which the reverse 911 did not work. And so we're good at the got recovered drill once a year. I think it's time for us to really address testing reverse 911 because a lot of people don't have landlines now; they're using their iPhones. But we need to do a better outreach and get people to sign up. So in your situation with CPAP, if the first responders know that there are different homes where there's someone that's got medical needs, they're going to target them with community evacuation so they know exactly which homes may need assistance getting out. We don't have a comprehensive registry right now. It's very piecemeal, and so we are moving forward with that. But are you in the economic real estate involved?
No, Leona Valley.
Leona Valley? Yeah, so we're going to have that done here. We're putting together the Ready, Set, Goes, and I'll make sure that we take care of it.
And as the TV stations were covering the fire in City Valley this morning, they were pushing, go to Ready, Set, Go, make sure you're registered, make sure your information is in there so that we can't get in touch with you. And you're in luck. Right after, we're going to take a 20-minute break. Right after the break, the discussion